Welcome to the April energy update and forecast, where we look at the sacred geometry, the numerology, the astrological alignments, and the cosmic alignments that we are going to be navigating through this month of April. And with all the information that I'm bringing forward for you today, will hopefully give you tools and awareness points to help you navigate these frequencies to assist you in your soul evolutionary expansion. So April is an interesting month. As we've been going through this year, we are increasingly noticing how the energies are shifting and the intensity of the energies. So if you go back to some of the previous videos, I think in February, I had said, February felt like it had been 6 months long because the energies were so intense. And March gave us this tiny little lull. We had this easy, slower pace to March before we had the intensity towards the end of March with the eclipse season opening up. And April, what we're seeing happening in April in terms of the alignments, these conjuncture points and the frequencies which are coming in and what has been prophesized is unprecedented. So there is a lot for us to look at. And it would be a very lengthy video if I went into all of that. So what I'm going to do is just pull out in each of those segments in terms of the numerology, sacred geometry, cosmic alignments, and astrological alignments, just pull out some of the key pieces for us to focus on to help navigate through this month, which is it's going to be a hugely transformative month for us. And I really feel that we have been doing the preparation work for this month for a number of years now. So let's step into the numerology and the sacred geometry of the number 4 and what the number 4 teaches us, what the number 4 frequencies, when we work with the frequencies, how they can help us expand our consciousness and how we can use those frequencies to clear what's in restriction and distortion within our field so that we can always come into a place of expansion and alignment. Before I step into this, I just want to back out of that a little bit and also just put a reminder in place in all my teachings, whether you are this is one of the first videos you're seeing of mine, or whether you've come across videos before, containers, workshops I've taught, or if you come to the weekly spiritual development classes, Living from the Heart, that I teach. One of the things I always encourage, and I'm going to just preface that here again, is that you are a sovereign being. And it's really important that you step into your sovereignty. So everything that I am sharing is being shared from my current conscious point and the collective's consciousness. And as a sovereign being, it is your duty to use your discernment to discern whether the information is serving you or resonating. Whatever is not resonating, please learn to surrender that, to release that, and work with what is in resonance for you. And the other point is that for us to continue with our soul evolutionary expansion, we really need to learn to zero point ourselves within the quantum field. So most of you know that I am a quantum field healer, so I work a lot within the quantum field. So for us to zero point within the quantum field, we come into this zero point field, the still point of infinite possibilities and infinite realities. And from that point, we discern the information that's coming through for us. And then we can choose and work with our sovereignty to expand our field with the information if it's in alignment. So again, that is really important for you to zero point everything that is being shared with you and to really feel how it is affecting your field and to tap into the infinite realm of possibilities from that 0 point to bring that alignment and expansion in your field. So I just wanted to bring that forward. So very simplistically, work with what works for you, and if it doesn't work for you, dump it. Right, so let's come into the numerology and the sacred geometry of the number 4. So number 4 it's a building block number. So when we look at 4, what is 4? 4 is the equilateral sided cube. So we see this harmony, we see this balance. So that already, when we step into that, it already opens us up into this harmony, this balance, the sense of structure, the sense of safety, the sense of stability, as well as regulation and coherence. So these are quite important themes for us when we're looking at the number 4. So remember, when we look at the number 4, we're going to be stepping into April, which is the 4th month. So it will hold these frequencies for us. How can we use or work with these frequencies as we navigate what is coming through for us cosmically and astrologically through this upcoming month? So really important to step into using number 4 as this building block. 4 is the building block. It is what allows us to lay safe, strong, stable, sturdy foundations for us. If we look at our English language, we always talk about in the safety of these 4 walls. So we also have this understanding that the numerology and the geometry of the 4 gives us a sense of safety, stability, sturdiness, which is going to become really important for us as we go further into this discussion point on what is coming through for us later in the month. So 4 also talks about a boundary point, so these 4 walls, right? So if we look at this boundary that is created, this pathway, so 4 gives us the frequency or opens up our field into working with pathways, going into pathways that can create stability, harmony, coherence, as we learn to navigate what's coming through for us in our field. Look at how it affects our nervous system. So again, 4 is an important number for our nervous system, because this harmony, this regulation, this coherence is really important for our nervous system, particularly when we are being challenged, from that emotional and that mental perspective. So again, coming into that, we can see that we have this beautiful frequency and this beautiful opportunity for us to really start to work with how can we create healthy pathways? How can we look at the pathways, either how we are emotionally and mentally or energetically or even physically engaging with something, and to see whether it is creating stability, harmony, balance, and is healthy for us. So that's something to explore. The other thing is that 4 talks to us about boundaries. And this is a huge theme, and we've been seeing this theme coming through in the previous months. In us learning, particularly in March, we had to really learn to work with the energies as they were coming through, and us to learn to place boundaries in so that we could focus on self-care and self-preservation. And this is really important for us this entire year, self-care, self-preservation, as we work with the overarching energy and the overarching theme of the number 8 for the year. So boundaries, and you'll see later as we go into the astrological alignments, boundaries is really important for us this month, because boundaries requires us to really step within and to be discerning, to be evaluative of, is this serving me? Is this relationship? So we're still seeing this theme of relationships coming forward. Is this relationship serving? Is this pattern, is this pathway healthy, serving? Is it creating safety? Within ourselves, 4 is asking us to ensure that we are creating pathways, patterns, practices, rituals. So that's all in that frequency of the 4 that create safety for us. Because ultimately, as we continue with our soul evolutionary journey and we are working in our ascension, us learning to be in our body firmly rooted or deeply rooted into the body experience, that is what is going to assist that acceleration point for us. And 4 is this beautiful opening window for us when we learn to work with 4. So there's a lot of tools and techniques that we can use in terms of working with the number 4. Breath work is a beautiful one to use. If we look at like nervous system regulation work, one of the key ones that we would look at would be the box breathing, where we do this equilateral breath work of breathing in for a certain count. Let's, for example, say it's a count for 4, holding for a count of 4, exhaling for a count of 4, holding for a count of 4. And again, moving the body is also always important, but coming into this place where you can start to center into the body. So let's step a little bit deeper into the sacred geometry and the alignments, the numerology of 4, and we look at what else 4 is bringing for us. And 4, so we look at this structure and stability. So that is really important. 4 brings us into this center point, the void, the womb, the neutral mind. So what this tells us is, don't get stuck in those old pathways. So we know that we are made up of our habits, our thinking, our behavior, the neurobiology, the neurochemistry is made up of those well-developed pathways. And for us to develop these new synapses, we need that discipline. So 4 can create that structure for us to have that discipline. But what it's also asking us to do, and it's also inviting us to work with, is for us to really be more aware, to be more evaluative of how much we are operating from the habit, because this is going to again be important when we look at the astrological alignments which are coming through. And to step out of that, to step out of the old system, the old program, the old conditioning, and to step into that center point of the neutral mind, the 0 point field, the void, the infinite potential of the cosmic womb, to create these new realities and these new infinite potentials for us. So 4 really asks us to take that approach. And we do that because 4 has this linking energy and frequency to heart-centeredness. So 4 encourages us to, when we work with that coming into this neutral point, it takes us into heart-centered practices. So for us to step out of that old system, structure, inflexibility into the infinite, expansive void, open mind or neutral mind, it encourages us and invites us to be heart-centered in the practices. And one of the qualities which is really important and will be a huge theme for us this month and moving forward in our ascension journey is to really connect into this heart-centered elevated emotions and elevated energy frequencies of compassion and forgiveness. So important. Compassion and forgiveness are going to be the new building blocks for this new earth that we're stepping into, for unity. As we break down the whole paradigm, the illusionary paradigm that has been created in our third density matrix around separation. So the number 4, on the negative, is what is keeping us separate from our divine self and working at anchoring and awakening our divine blueprint. So that is something that we can really invite into our awareness this month as we navigate some of the energies which are coming up this month for us, and work with these energies and these frequencies as we step into really expanding and clearing a lot of density, because we've got this beautiful opportunity to clear density. When we look at 4, we see 4, our cosmos is made up of 4. Everything we know is made up of 4. We have the 4 seasons. We have the 4 directions, north, south, east, west. We have the lunar cycle, the 4 phases of the moon. We have these 4 power points during the year of the equinoxes and the solstices. You know, these are huge signaling points. So we see this in all the ancient scriptures, and we look at the ancient tribes and how the 4, their entire culture, their ethos, their way of life was regulated, not ruled in a negative way, but regulated and in harmony with this element of 4. Okay, so 4 also, because it's a heart-centered, it opens us up to this compassion, this forgiveness, and it takes us into the frequencies of unity as well, and it brings us back into this connection with our Earth Mother as well, and working more harmoniously in balance with the Earth Mother. And we can see this coming through if we go back to the Native Americans and, the ancient, the tribals. If we look at, what was the word? I want to say the Aboriginals, the ancient African tribes, they very much worked with the elements of 4. So, yeah, beautiful frequency for us. 4 is also ruled by the planet Jupiter, and Jupiter is the planet of abundance, of expansiveness. So we can see that when we can step out of the 4, so this is, okay, so let me backtrack a little bit. In this month, make sure that you are using or working in harmony and balance with the frequency of 4 within that neutral space of expansiveness, in that void space, in that 0 point stillness place, rather than the old structure that can be confining. Yeah. So 4 will bring this expansiveness for us when we step out and we collapse that old structure. 4 brings a lot of safety, so we need to learn to keep that balance point of when we lean into the structure of the 4 for balance and safety, but we access the infinite potential within the 4 for expansion, for evolution, for wisdom, for embodiment, divine blueprint embodiment. Okay, so that was looking at the sacred geometry and the numerology of the number 4. So 4 brings a lot of stability, beautiful number for us to work with. And I really feel a number that is going to be important for us, that stability, because when we step into the astrological and the cosmic alignments of April, what April is bringing forward for us, we are going to need to really come into this place of balance and learn to be really rooted and centered within ourselves. Okay, so let's look at some of the astrological alignments and the cosmic frequencies which are coming in for us this month. So, and I've mentioned this before, we have had a lot of solar flares. The solar flare activity has been definitely picking up. We saw the whole of last year, towards the end of 2022, the whole of last year, we saw this increase in solar flare activity. And it has been said that this year is going to be that culmination point of the solar flares, because 2024, 2025 is this turning point for us as we clear out the density of the the inverted third density matrix, so that we can step into this new Earth timeline. And we just had an astronomical amount of solar flares, particularly over the full moon eclipse that we had on the 25th of March. And that weekend, you know, we had this record high number of solar flares. And I feel that this year, the number of solar flares we've been having and the intensity of them is that slow preparation for what is happening on the 8th of April. So the 8th of April is a very significant date for us in our astrological calendar. I'll get to that in a little bit, because everything I'm talking about in this recording is all very much focused and pinpointed on the 8th of April and what's happening on the 8th of April. But let's kind of step out of that a little bit, step back into what's happening for us this month. So I'll go through what's happening this month, just awareness points for us. And then I'm going to focus more on the 8th of April and how we can really anchor that new frequency that's coming in on that day for us. Okay, so April is the month of Aries. Aries is the astrological new year. It's the number one in terms of the energies of the astrological alignment. So Aries carries the energy of one. It's the initiating force. It's very fiery energy. So we've been moving out from Pisces, which is very watery, very deeply emotional, for us to really dive into the emotions. And now we're stepping into this Aries energy, which is this fire. For me, I always see Aries very much as this arrowhead. You know, it's this action taking, not forceful. It can be when it's out of balance. So remember, we have to keep working with the number 4, keep everything in balance and harmony. Aries is a beautiful energy to work with when we can keep it in balance and harmony. But if that goes out of balance, then Aries can be very, very destructive. It's ruled by Mars. Mars is the planet of war, and Aries is very kind of warlike. It steps in, it's fiery, it's inflammatory. So we can notice quite a lot of inflammatory conditions coming up for us, emotionally, mentally, physically. And I think we're going to really be experiencing this one physically. So again, we can work with Aries in terms of this initiation or initiatory energy that it has, this trailblazing, this leader, this action. So we're really being asked this month to take action. It is a transformative month. Everything about this month and everything that has happened astrologically from February, when we had Pluto, you know, coming into this conjuncture point with Aquarius, and we had this huge explosive energy of transformation. Pluto is the god of the underworld. It is, I think I mentioned in my video, for me, I look at it, it's like the wrecking ball. It comes in, you know, just absolutely destroys what's in its path so that the new can be created. So it takes us right into that underworld, into the shadow, so that that beautiful alchemical process can happen once we've done the shadow work, medicine, and the new comes out. So it's a very much a rebirthing energy, and we're in this rebirth. We're in this, as I record this, we're in the Easter weekend period. This is the highly energized energies of death, the rebirth, the resurrection. And this month brings a lot of that. Aries is a beautiful energy because it's fiery, because it's a trailblazer, because it sets a path for us. It really facilitates this resurrection and this rebirth of the new, which is so important for us this month. So we have this Aries energy that we are working with this month, which is very different to the watery energy of Pisces. And we have a super new moon. So whenever we've got super new moon, it's always a very intensified, but it is eclipse. So let me talk a little bit about eclipse. We're in the eclipse portal. We just had our eclipse on the 25th of March. It was the full moon eclipse in Libra, which was all about the relationships. So eclipse, if you go back to my previous video last month, you will see eclipse is basically the proverbial kick up the ass from the universe. So if you're not in alignment with your soul path, or you're not fulfilling the contract you came here to do, you're not in alignment with your purpose. So Aries is beautiful for that, because it takes us into that, as I said, that arrow point. It really keeps us into that alignment. So if you're not in that, the eclipses are going to really come in and knock you so that you can be in that alignment point. So we have these two. We have the full moon, which was on the 25th of March, and we've got the super new moon on the 8th of April. And this period in between, where we're in this eclipse energy of transformation, of clearing out, decluttering, it gives us that opportunity, because the full moon would have really made visible what needed to be moved out, what needs to be seeded in for the new to grow. And the 8th is that beautiful opportunity that we have with the cosmic frequencies and astrological alignments to really plant and seed this new for us, to really focus into because it's the dark moon, it's that shadow moon, where we can really access that deep, dark, shadowy aspect of ourselves and see what needs to be seeded, where that alchemy can happen, the medicine can happen for us to grow, for us to rebirth into the new. So we've got this energy this month, which is very intensified because it's a super new moon plus the eclipses. This month, in the month of April, we have the eclipses and all the alignments coming through with this Aries energy, this very fiery energy, as well as Mercury, Mercury retrograde. So Mercury is still in its shadow, and Mercury stations on the 1st of April. And then it's in retrograde all the way until the end of April. So it really means that, we would have noticed this Mercury retrograde through this last eclipse. And we would have noticed the effect of the Mercury retrograde, or the shadow aspect of the Mercury, because it was in its shadow. And then as it retrogrades, we have this entire month of it within its retrograde, which means that at the end of April, when it comes out of retrograde, we are going to have to go back and maybe revisit some of those communication points, some of those new pathways that we developed for ourselves in this month. So we're going to have to come back and revisit this. Mercury is a planet of communication. And remember, we can always choose, as sovereign beings, using our discernment, using our free will, we can always choose how we want to work with anything that is there. You can go into, oh, Mercury retrograde, it's going to be like a shit show, everything's going to like, or you can work with Mercury in its positive qualities and really open up to receiving the wisdom that is being communicated. So Mercury is really going to be channeling a lot of wisdom for us at the moment. It is the planet of communication. It is the Lord of communication. So we will be receiving a lot, but we, again, this balance point of the 4, those pathways, the boundaries, this void point for us, the 0 point for us. How are we working in our relationships in terms of communication? If communication is getting really fiery, then it's really telling us that things need to be changed. This is the month that we are going to notice the communication piece is going to come under fire for us. So again, look at what needs to change. Create that safety and stability for yourself. That 0 point, that void, also means come into yourself and really be discerning of what needs to change, what needs to shift in the relationship, in the connection, whatever the connection is, so that you can make that change for yourself and then step forward. Safety is important. We need to have our own personal boundary to feel safe so we can make those changes. Hugely transformative. Fire is massively transformative. I feel that this year 8 is a very fiery year for us anyway. A lot of fire elements coming through for us anyway as we go through this hugely transformative year. So yeah, this month is definitely bringing us into connection and awareness of that as we work with that. So that self-care is important. Self-preservation is important. So let's work with the first part of the month before we step into the later part of the month. So the first part of the month, the entire month is going to be intense. Okay, so there's just there's no soft way to say that. It's like rip the plaster off. It's going to be intense. The first part of the month is more focused in on the healing and the pathways we can develop in terms of coming into heart-centered practices and looking at what needs healing within our core wound. And we did a lot of this at the end of February to the beginning of March. And, we did a lot of this within our classes as well. And I have spoken about this in previous videos, or, if you're following my social media, I normally put a post out called Messages from the Stars. So there's a journal prompts and things there. The newsletter will also have that. So you can always go back and look at those. So there's a lot of heart wound stuff that is arising for us. And here it's because when we look at the beginning of April, firstly, we've got Mercury. Mercury's really moving through. We've got Mercury and this Aries energy, both very fiery, both very inflammatory, instigating type of energies. But also what we see is we see Venus moving into our root chakra. So she moves from the sacral, she moves into the root, and she's really getting ready to move from her position as the morning star into the night star. So when Venus is in the morning star, she is in her warrioress, she's in her fiery energy. And those of you who come to my classes, those of you who've done my container work, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. This is the Venetian pathway that we're looking at. This is the Inanna mythology, the Sumerian mythology, and we see other mythologies carrying the same symbology of this, of the upper world and the underworld. So we have got Venus moving out from the upper world. So she's here sitting at this transitionary place, ready to transition before she goes into this underworld journey. And this is going to be really important once you absorb the information of the 8th of April. So once I've spoken about that, we'll understand why Venus moving into the night star. So we'll see her dance around the moon, and she will be coming up as the night star for us, which is our shadow work. So she takes us into our deepest shadow so that we can go into that to do the deep healing that is required. Venus is the goddess of love, the planet of love, of beauty, of opening hearts. So we've got this. And in the root chakra is all about, it's number 4. It's about stability. It's about foundation. It is about us feeling safe. So here, one of the most important things for us to really work with and reflect a lot on in this month is for me to be safe, for me to be embodied, and for me to create space within my body to anchor in the embodiment of my divinity, to be this open vessel for the divine to flow through me, in me, and for me to be the divine expression that I chose to be as I came into this vessel. One of the things we need to work with is abandonment. So abandonment is, how am I abandoning myself when I'm not establishing boundaries, when the communication is not, when I'm not communicating what I need to be communicating, when I'm not being really clear and lineated within that. So again, the pathways, how am I abandoning myself by not creating these heart-centered practices? How am I abandoning myself when I'm always stepping out of myself and looking after everyone else, rather than coming into this void point, into this neutral point, right? So we are really being asked this month to step into the self, to do this, to prepare ourselves to go into this inner world experience, this inner journey of ourselves. And Venus is going to be the planet that's going to take us into that as she starts her transition into the underworld journey. And again, it's going to be a rocky one for us because, you know, when we look at core wounds coming around safety, you know, root chakra, this is all about our foundation, our stability, financial, you know, just our survival instinct. And with everything that's happening in the collective, you know, are we feeling safe in the collective at the moment? So we just moved from a period where Venus has been in her element. You know, she was in Pisces, and she's exalted in Pisces. We've just had the full moon in Libra. You know, Venus rules Libra, so she really, as we worked on that balancing point, she was able to really imbue us with the wisdom, the healing, the insight on what needed to move through, what needed to be cleared out, what we were opening up and healing, because she was working in Pisces and Libra, you know, in the month of March. She's in Aries. Aries and Venus are not a good match for each other. Very fiery energy with this beautiful Venetian energy of love and heart opening, you know, fiery energy. And think back to the 4, you know, if that becomes too rigid and too restrictive, can we stay open-hearted? You know, can we stay open-hearted to ourselves? Can we be compassionate? Can we forgive ourselves for some of those pathways, some of those loops we have? And can we be open-hearted and compassionate to others? And can we be open-hearted and compassionate to the collective? Because it's really time that we move into a place of unity. So this is so important for us to really work with this 4 frequency. So we can break that old paradigm, so we can shift into unity and oneness. This is how we help Gaia in her ascension, and the whole collective return into this wholeness and oneness. So that's a really important aspect for us. As we go through the month, we've got Mercury in Aries, Venus kind of doing this dance with each other, and then we've got Chiron. Again, we've spoken about Chiron in the previous months, particularly around the end of February, beginning of March. Chiron's the wounded healer. And we've got Chiron dancing around Venus, Aries, and Mercury. So it's communication, fire, love, wounding. And we've got the wounded healer coming in and really excavating all of that for us, excavating that wound as we navigate this piece around Mercury, the communication. We know that everything kind of frizzes with Mercury, right? And the Aries energy. But important to remember that if we can find that balance point within all of this, we can come into this 0-point field of neutrality, of just being in it, of just allowing this all to surface, arise within us, be the observer, come from that place of neutrality, be the neutral observer, knowing that there's a deep healing, deep cathartic process, transformative, alchemical process that is happening. And all you need to do is simply breathe, notice, observe, allow, surrender to it. It will transition, it will transform, right? So that is really important for us. And we are being reminded that if we can work with that, if we can 0-point ourselves into that center point of the 4, as we have this piece of Mercury, Venus, Aries, and Chiron moving around us, then we can clear what needs to be cleared, and we can use all of those elements in their strengths rather than their negatives, which can create a lot of disharmony, dysregulation, dysfunction, and a huge breakdown for us. A breakdown in relationships, a breakdown in infrastructures, things like that. I'm not talking about a breakdown like a mental breakdown or emotional breakdown, but that could also be within the infinite realm of possibilities. That could be a possibility for someone, depending on what they're here to clear. Okay, so that's a lot for us to kind of take in, right? There's so much already happening, and I haven't even got to the juicy stuff yet. What? There's more? Yes, there's more. There's always more. Okay, so let's talk about the eclipses and what we are going to be experiencing, what there's potential for in the eclipse. So we know that eclipses are a period of huge quantum leaps, and we've been speaking about this in the classes in terms of us being able to access the infinite potential within timeline jumping and the quantum leaping. Okay, so as we start stepping out, so we've got in the beginning of the month, we've got all of this intense energies, we've got this full moon eclipse, and then after that we've got, because the eclipse takes us into, from the eclipse we've got this huge potential to quantum leap. So we've got that until the full moon, which is at the end of the month. Okay, and this is really beautifully weaved together by this conjuncture point just before the end of the month, around the 20th, 21st of Jupiter and Uranus. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, abundance. And Uranus is the gear change. If you think about when you change a gear in your car, it's the eccentric one. It's the one that kind of circulates out of alignment with the other planets. It goes the other way. So it's really about us shifting gear, stepping out of this rigidness of the four, which may not be serving us, right? And get into the 0-point field of quantum expansion. So important that we do the work in the beginning part of the month to really come into the space of healing. Let's use Chiron and that dance that Chiron is doing with Mercury, Venus, Aries. Let's use the Mercury retrograde energies, the eclipse energies, to really clear out, with all that fiery energy, clear out what needs to be cleared so that we can step into this infinite space of potential and do some quantum leaping and bring in some new golden timelines for us of expansion and of abundance. Okay. This is something I talk about a lot in classes. I haven't done any public videos on them, but I talk a lot about it in the classes. It's really important for us to learn that a lot of what we experience, so even when we're looking at like all the energy around the full moon and the eclipses and any portal days, and I always speak about this in the classes, and when I teach when I run the global meditations, the portal day meditations, is there are two frequencies for us to tap into. There is the distorted third density matrix program of the full moon eclipse, of the portal, of the equinox, whatever is going on. And there is the source, the true, divinely source-coded consciousness. Okay? So for us to quantum leap into the timeline that we have created and that has been divinely created for us by the divine architects, it is important that we unplug ourselves from third density program and step into source consciousness, coding, frequency, and golden codes that we all carry. And we plug ourselves into that, allow the divinity to flow through us and access from that 0-point field. Really, really important for us to do this. Okay. So as we are coming into this void space of infinite potential this month, we have this Jupiter and Uranus around the 20th, which gives us this potential to really step into that. And some of the alignments around this period really ask us to get into this deeper feeling body of ours so that we can sift through what is in restriction, what's really blocking us, and then move into this quantum jump. And we have our full moon at the end of the month in Scorpio, at the 24th of April in Scorpio. Scorpio is sultry. Scorpio is stingy. Scorpio is desire. It's magnetizing. Scorpio is magnetizing. So Scorpio gives us this potential when we can work with that full moon energy in Scorpio. It gives us this potential to really access this infinite possibility when we can connect to desire. And I know I've spoken a lot about desire in the previous month. And desire is when we come into this really deeply rooted, centered, knowing place within us. Step out of all the conditioning, right? Let go of the old four structure. Let that crumble and step into this new space of what is it that I really, truly desire. And the full moon brings that to us, because the full moon is all about this illumination. It's this spotlight, but it's this beautiful opportunity to really let go of everything that is in restriction. What is holding us back. Okay, so beautiful month of energy, lots for us to work through. I'm just quickly looking at my notes to make sure I haven't really missed out anything. Oh yes, so the new moon affirmation is, so the new moon is on the 8th of April. I'm going to come to this new moon now in a second. I keep saying it, but I am. I'm always almost sort of creating a separate video for it because it's such a big piece for us. Okay, so the new moon in Aries, it's the eclipse, super new moon, and it is I am fearless. That's the Aries energy, right? You know, that's pushing out there. I move through life, take that action with the Aries energy, with great courage, foresight, and determination. So this is all that Mercury, Aries energy that's really pushing us forward. The full moon in Scorpio is, I welcome the divine spirit of cathartic release. So this is that deep healing. So the expansion point that we have with Jupiter and Uranus takes us into this place of visiting what really needs to be released so that we can access that desire. It really brings us into this deep connection and knowing what we truly desire here. Allowing the transformation to strengthen my core. Okay, so we come back into this whole element again of strengthening core, which is strengths, takes us back to this numerology, geometry of the four, which is the stability, it's the structure, the building blocks, the strength. We're coming back to this foundation. Okay, we have to be willing to release. We have to come heart-centered and do the work this month. In terms of cosmically, yeah, I feel that we are going to have some pretty intense solar flares to navigate. As I've said before, is we need to learn to change the conditioning of how we think again. The neural pathways, going around the same four walls, expecting a different solution. It's not going to happen. Okay. So you physically not feeling well, emotionally, challenges coming up emotionally, mentally, energetically, spiritually, that's going to be normal for us. And if you can step out of what the third density program is around that you are disempowered, that something is wrong with you, that you are weak and not well, and you're not connected to sovereignty, almost victim consciousness there plugs you very much into fear, not enoughness, victim consciousness, disempowerment, and you plug into your sovereignty, your divinity, and really bringing this truth, this alignment point for yourself. It will allow you to navigate this clearing out that's happening in your vessel, the four lower bodies of your vessel, your emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual, so that you can become the embodiment of your divinity. That's why you came here. That's why you are on earth in this beautiful divine connection with Gaia and the other beautiful souls on this planet, so that you could remember that. And it's time to do that work so that you can fulfill your own prophecy. Okay, so let's go into this huge eclipse on the 8th of April. So I've written down quite a lot of notes, and I'm going to kind of just do the top points of it. I feel this is something, so for those of you who don't know, I run weekly classes. This is something we're definitely going to be talking about and working on in our classes. And in fact, I look back to the classes I have been teaching, and very clearly from November 2022, as a group, the Living from the Heart class, we have been systematically working on this alignment point that is happening on the 8th of April. And in all the global meditations I run, the global meditations are all geared around what is happening on the 8th of April in terms of bringing in the new grids, the new codes, and to clear the distorted programming within the collective field, so that we can live within our sovereignty, and we can anchor in the divine blueprint, and we can return to unity. So let's go into the 8th of April, which is being, tag named the Great American Solar Eclipse. So 8th of April, and there's two different schools here. One says 5,000 years and the other says 7,000 years. So I hear people saying 5,000 years, and then we've got this renowned physicist talking about 7,000 year cycles, that this, what's happening on the 8th, this alignment point, this conjuncture point. And the last time it happened was 7,000 years ago, and previous to that was 14,000 years ago. So you get the picture. It's a pretty big deal. And the 8th of April, in terms of the astrological alignments and this conjuncture point that we are seeing, firstly has been unprecedented. Like if you look at it from an astrological viewpoint, it's like, oh my God, or, it's blowing up the charts. But this has been prophesized. So if you go into the ancient texts, if you go into the Hopi prophecy, the Rainbow Nation prophecies, you go into like the biblical prophecies, we see that the 8th of April has been prophesized for millennia. And what we're seeing is, so I'll just do a little bit of a backstory, is as the eclipse is traversing America, the American belt, this line over America, it is passing over 7 towns called Nineveh. So 7 towns called Nineveh. 8 years prior to this, we saw a Great American Solar Eclipse, which traversed a similar pattern, but perpendicular to that, 7 towns called Salem. So we see 7 and 7, and it makes this perfect. They intersect at this umbilical point, this still point. Okay. And I really feel, what we've been working on in our classes, particularly this last week with the integration flame, we've been working on the 7 sacred flames, and then we've got the 5 secret flames. And we've got the 7 sacred flames, which circulate 1 point, and then the secret flames, which circulate the 1 point in another format around. So like the molecules, like the atom. And then we've got this 0 point, this intersection point of all of those, which is the integration flame, the 8th flame, the integration flame, and how important this is. And here we've got the exact same patterning happening within these conjunctures of these 2 solar eclipses. So they call the one line the alpha line and the other the omega line, the alpha and the omega, the masculine and the feminine. Okay. So let's go back to what is happening. So I kind of sat with the energies around this. I looked at some of the literature and some of the information around this. And, just opened up into channel and asked, what are we being shown? What is so significant about this day? And how can we work with this day? So we're in the year of the dragon, which when we look at the year of the dragon is the sacred feminine energy lines of Gaia, right? And the year of the dragon is bringing back, it is the activation point of the start of the returning of the sacred feminine. So as a collective, we have been working for a number of years on the return of the sacred feminine. And as we've been doing that, there's been this balancing point on the divine masculine. And the 8th of April is very much this explosive point. And this is why I feel we're going to have some pretty intense solar flares coming through. This explosive point for us where we sit within this 0-point field as a collective, and those who are choosing to work consciously at creating the new earth to assist Gaia in her ascension. We're in this 0-point field to really open up the field into the birthing. So we're in the birthing and the resurrection of the Divine Mother. This is the Sophia consciousness. So the dragons are the seraphims, which is the highest order of angels. So if you look at the order of angels, there's 9 levels. The seraphims are the highest order of angels, which carry the emanation, the frequencies of the Sophia womb, the cosmic womb. So what I was shown is that this is the return of the mother, the return of the Sophia consciousness to our planet, okay? Which is what is needed for the old patriarchal system that has been in place for thousands of years. So last year, I channeled information for the classes around the Anunnaki. And then Anunnaki made their appearance here. The Anunnaki consciousness made its appearance 300,000 years ago and has created this slavery and entrapment program. And this is the inverted matrix that we exist in. And our responsibility is to clear that, for us to collapse that. And the 8th of April is the opportunity for all conscious souls who have an understanding of what the 8th of April is. The 8th of April is the birthing of the Divine Mother consciousness into the collective, which allows the sacred feminine to rise up again. This then has a catalytic effect within the divine masculine energy. There is going to be a lot of wobbling around, okay? This 4 energy, because, and we know we've looked at the energies of April, you know, this fiery, this cathartic, this cleansing. So May is going to pack a punch. I haven't looked at May's energies yet, but it's going to pack a punch because this energy is going to create this pulse wave into the collective field. And we are going to have this vacillation of energy as we have this clearing out of the density. But we really have the opportunity to finally collapse the infrastructure, and this is why I mentioned the old 4 conditioning and programs that we have been under. All of those who've been working on the ascension path and who've been wanting to see a new world and who've been working and trying to birth the new world and to assist Gaia in her ascension, this is the time that we need to step in, work together consciously and actively work on anchoring in this new grid so that we can facilitate the collapse of the distorted patriarchal system. What will be experienced for all souls, conscious or not, is the cleansing of the abuse that the sacred feminine energy has carried for the last centuries. Within all of us, within every atom, we carry the imprint of all that has been in existence. So when we look at that from the earth plane perspective, and we see the denigration and the decimation of the sacred feminine and the abuse that the feminine has suffered, we all, because we would have all had masculine and feminine lives, we all have, whether you're masculine, whether you're male or female, you all have a lineage, a maternal lineage. So that imprint, that DNA coding will be passed through. So you have ancestors, feminine ancestors. So all of us are going to be going through this cathartic cleanse as we release the pain, the wound of the feminine. If you've been to the classes, if you've been following the work, you'll know everything I talk about is about the sacred union, and it's everything I teach. We work about it, we work on it all the time. We finally have this opportunity to anchor in the sacred union template, where both the masculine and the feminine are in that point of sacred union, and they are in their exalted selves. And when I say exalted, I'm not meaning just upper world. I am talking about the masculine and the feminine having gone through their own deep shadow. We're being taken into the shadow with this Pluto energy. I forgot to mention that when I was talking about the astrology. We've got Pluto, doing its transformation at the end of April. So Pluto is going to take us into the underworld journey. Venus goes into her underworld journey, and we are all going to be taken into this underworld journey so that we can do some deep healing and transformation around this feminine principle wound. And the more we clear and heal around that, the more we are able to facilitate, activate the Earth's crystalline grid, activate our own DNA and cellular memory so that we can be living embodiments of our divinity. We will have to learn to balance our fields, and that's going to take some work because collectively there's going to be this huge cleanup. Now, make no mistake. The overlords, which have been ruling this planet, that draconian and Anunnaki and hybrid versions, are well prepared for what is coming up, have preempted everything. We are going to see, and we have been seeing, a lot of distraction. We're going to be seeing a lot more distraction. I've spoken about biohacking. Our field will be biohacked, where we will be into our energetic system will be interfered with. Our sleep state will be interfered and infiltrated with. So it is really important that you set up your practices, you step into sovereignty, and you reclaim. And we did this in, was it February? We did this in February, where we worked a lot on reclaiming our space. I think it was January, actually. We did a lot on reclaiming our space and declaring our space as sovereign. This is so important that you do this as a daily practice. that you be discerning of your frequency as it shifts and changes during the day. As you work with presence, we start our classes all off with a presence practice, and it's so important to learn to be present, to be in your own energy field, to really feel what is shifting through, and to learn to be sovereign in it and learn to be discerning so that you know what is yours and what is being created, excuse my language, from the shit show. So there is going to be interference because for 300,000 years, they have enslaved humanity, and they're not going to relinquish it easily. So I feel this is also why we have such strong energy, such strong, fiery, transformative. But we have the gift of Pluto. Pluto is going to be in our charts for 20 years, deeply transformative. And if we can learn to work with these alignment points, with these conjunctures, with the solar flares, and not be like, this is really wiping me out. Yes, it's going to wipe you out. It's meant to wipe you out because you're clearing the programmings, the implants, you're clearing the distorted illusionary grids. You're breaking free. So it's going to take its toll on your vessel. And this is why the rest is so important, and for you to learn to become emotionally intelligent, learn to work with your emotions, learn to meet your mind, and learn to balance and heal. So on a collective, there's going to be huge clearing and cleansing. I feel we are also going to lose a lot of souls. Those who maybe not wanting to partake in this, or who are wanting to stay in the distorted patriarchal system. So I feel that we will lose a lot of souls. I also feel that we will lose souls who are the warriors who are fighting for this, purely because they won't be able to do what they have come here to do within the restraints of their physical vessel. So they may need to transcend into their spiritual vessels to be able to do the work that they need to do. I also feel that if we do the work that is required for us, work with our nervous system, learn to keep ourselves healthy, establish those boundaries, cut clear, be ruthless of everything that's not serving. People, places, things, don't be afraid, don't go into the fear. We will start to see a influx. Influx, is that the right word? We will start to see a onboarding. I know what they're showing me, I just don't know how to articulate it. An activation of our divine gifts. So telecommunication, visioning, that's going to be huge. Clairsentience, clairaudience, that's going to pick up massively. I feel that those who are doing the work, so if you've ever looked at mycelium, the mushroom, how it works, the mycelium, the network, I feel that those who are doing the work are going to start embodying that mycelium consciousness, and amongst each other are going to be able to network through the energetic connections and through the crystalline grids of Gaia to help each other out. Even though we don't know we're doing it, even though we don't know each other, we are going to be able to do that through this connection with the mycelium. I think we're going to really embody this mycelium, a consciousness within us, and work with that. Right, so what the 8th is about. So I feel like I've gone on for a really long time, and this is probably, it wasn't meant to be such a long video. So I'm going to start drawing it to a close. The invitation is if you want to learn more about this, I am happy to do talks. And, there is the invitation to join the classes. We will be focusing on this as well in the classes. So let's go back to what the eclipse is. The eclipse is this expansive point, infinite potential to finally release the separation, coding, and restrictions we have been living in, and to come into unity. We are going to see the reclamation. So this is the resurrection energy. As we resurrect, as we rise up, we reclaim. Reclamation of truth. We're going to see a lot of distorted truths are going to be shown. So we will be able to reclaim our truth. Reclaiming of power as we become sovereign. The return of the divine mother. The return of the dark mother. The mother who veiled herself and left the conscious planes of this earth realm because she couldn't bear witness to the suffering of her children. The dark mother is returning, which is beautiful. I'll talk more about that in classes as well. We will see the healing of the desecration and the denigration of the divine feminine. Lots of work to do around that. Huge healing on the trauma imprint, and we need to really be aware of that. And this is the conjuncture point of the alpha, the omega, the masculine, the feminine, the I am presence. This is that 0 point field where we can bring that online, and we move out of the only destructive, controlling energies that we've had, and we move into the energy of creation, of birthing, of infinite abundance, nurturing. Very, very quickly, something that I came across is Nineveh is an ancient Lemurian. So if you look at the ancient Lemurian translation of Nineveh, so the 7 states of Nineveh that are being crossed, or the towns of Nineveh, loosely translates to love from the tears of dragons. Okay. Dragon consciousness is a sphere consciousness. This is the mother principle returning, not Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Mother, Father, Daughter, Son. It's the mother principle who is returning. So all this work we've done on the divine feminine is allowing the mother principle to return again. The goddess, not just the God, the goddess. Okay. And for me, this is us returning to our seraphim template. We will see the return of the seraphim template in the divine humans. We're all the divine humans, those who choose to activate it or not, which also means that we have the potential to fully activate our Adamite particle, which is our God particle. We were all born with the God particle, but the patriarchal overlords have put blocks, restrictions, coding, programs in to keep us separate from that. And we have this potential to finally be able to access that. That will connect us also to the sacred flames within the heart, the threefold flame within the heart, so that we can completely activate the divine blueprint. Very, very important on Monday the 8th to pay attention to the time of the eclipse. The eclipse in GMT. So for UK, for those of you who are watching this in the UK, it starts at in the evening, 4:38 p.m. and ends at 8:52 p.m. But the maximum effect of the eclipse is at 17 minutes past 6 in the evening. Okay. The eclipse will last for 4 minutes and 28 minutes, 0.1 second, which again, there is a whole other frequency that we can tap into. And again, we don't have time to talk about that, but around 6 p.m. GMT on the 8th, it is so important that we unplug ourselves from what's happening up there, out there, because that is the false illusion. And we go within, okay? Because the Alpha Omega, it's the return of the Omega, it's the return of the Divine Mother. We come into our central sun to activate our God particle, which means it has to be an inward journey. Okay? And that is what we do. We go and access it from within. So it's deeply, deeply, deeply important that you spend that time from around 6 p.m. GMT for, let's say, 11 minutes. Actually make it longer, make it 22 or 33 minutes. Okay, so the maximum will be at 17 minutes past 6. So it will end at close to 16:22. Okay, 16:22 minutes past 6. So that is that pivotal window for us to really access and you vision, pull forward that desire, anchor in your divine template. Okay, and that will help facilitate the collapse of the dark infrastructure that is holding us in slavery and separation. Okay. And I think I will leave this for now. There is a lot more to say, but I am aware that this video has become very, very lengthy. If you've got any questions, just message me and I will probably put more content around this as we go through the month. Sending you all lots of love. Remember why you came here, and we have this beautiful, beautiful frequencies and divine support coming in for us to really step into this. And from a space deep within my heart, I urge and I encourage you to really go into that inward journey for yourself, and to anchor this in, to really connect in with your divine blueprint and open your heart. We all, the collective, desperately needs this healing. Sending you love.